Welcome to Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. Our podcast showcases inspiring appraisers and professionals from the industry who are leaders in their field. How did they get to where they are? What have they learned along the way? What can we learn from them? Your host is real estate investor, entrepreneur, and appraiser, Michael Hobbs.
Hey, well, welcome and thanks for joining us for another exciting, engaging, and informative episode of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. As you know, you can only do what you can do, which is your small, thoughtful, and gracious effort to subscribe and like the podcast tells the network, sends the important signal that this is something that you're getting value out of, something that you're enjoying, and they'll help spread the good word just as much as you spread the good word to your peers. Those that in your chapter, those around your organization, maybe those just in the segment of the industry that you work with. Well, with that, we're excited to have Chris joining us today. Chris, thanks for being our guest.
Oh, Michael, thank you. It's fun to be here.
It is. I have to agree. It is indeed fun. And you know what's more fun, Chris, is hearing the powerful answer to the question of, Chris, were you born this way, or how did your life come to intersect the appraisal and valuation profession?
Well, I have to say, I think both are true.
Wow.
I was born this way, but there is a circuitous route to get to being in the appraisal and mortgage sector.
Yes, sir.
I was kind of born in it a little bit in the sense that from my earliest memories, my brothers and I would play around in neighborhoods being built. My dad was a developer, home builder.
Oh, wow.
And so our jungle gym was the houses under construction. We'd play tag running across floor joists barefooted in the neighborhood.
I love this.
And
sounds familiar.
Okay. And we would, my dad would have several houses going up and other builders would have houses going up. But, we watched sewer lines get put into muddy roads that turned into paved roads and all that stuff. So it was a pretty adventurous childhood in the world of real estate.
Yes, sir.
And then, there's my dad also influenced the path to appraisal in that he's a USPAP instructor.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
No way.
And in fact, he was very early on. He started a real estate appraisal school back in the late 80s.
Wow.
And in fact, I got my, R1, 2, and 3, and G1 back in those days.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, so ultimately it kind of wound around and ultimately I landed back here. I jumped out of the real estate piece for a while, but that was really because of the interest that I gained both in college and kind of in the analytical side of appraisals.
Really?
Yeah. Jumped over into, my brother and I had an appraisal firm, and we were trying to figure out how we could talk to each other on our computers. And so this was way back when, we had dot matrix printers and we had glue sticks, 1 hour photos. Does anybody remember this?
Oh, that's amazing. So you had you're not saying that you and your brother were friends with Alexander Graham Bell.
Well, pretty close. You could, if you look on the screen, I have very little hair and what I have is gray. So I'm not a spring chicken, but.
But you sound like one.
Thank you.
Vocal quality.
I'll take that for sure. Yeah. But, so we were playing around and put some computers together, put a little coaxial cable network together and started making the computers talk to each other. And I was trying to figure out how to grab the data off of the green screen for the MLS system, which was an entirely different computer system than I think we were using Total at the time.
Yeah.
So, all of that kind of spurred a little interest, and so I jumped into IT. Spent a little time at Cisco Systems, EMC, consulting at a company that was a joint venture between Microsoft and Accenture. And then right when the Home Valuation Code of Conduct came out, then, I had the appraisal experience, had the IT experience, and it seemed like a real good answer to home valuation code of conduct would be a workflow platform that served as a witness that everything's above board. So that's how I got back into the appraisal sector.
I mean, I think that just is a story that needs to be told to everyone, that you should leave IT and you should go into appraisal. I mean,
okay.
your story, you could be the poster boy for technologists leaving that horrible community.
Awful, right?
They don't value you. They don't pay you. Yeah. You labor away at odd hours of the day and night, and no one cares about you. And then, poof, you show up in appraisal, and everybody loves you, like Glinda from The Wizard of Oz, the wonderful witch.
Oh, man. Well, you know what? I think that the first part of what you described is probably true for just about every industry, every career.
Yes, that's true.
I don't think it's only the appraisal side, and both are challenging and both are rewarding. And in this space, I'm getting a little bit of both. So,
really, tell us, what do you mean when you say that?
Well, so the appraisal side isn't just a silo. It's a component within everything else. So a lot of times there may be the perspective of, hey, I'm just coming up with a valuation and I'm handing it over. You do what you want to with it from the appraiser side. But I think that it gets interesting if you look at what is being done with that work product that an appraisal produces, and where it can go and what it can be used for. And so trying to figure out, if I was both a math major and an art minor in college, the math major at the time, well, it's, it actually isn't as opposing as it might seem. I think that there's a lot of creativity that can be found in math. And I think there's a lot of math that can be found in creative endeavors. And so I get to play with both of them, solving problems, and especially with all the transformations that have taken place since 2008. I mean, we've gone through just an incredible collection of inflection points, and all of them seem like they're earth-shattering. Right now, we're going through 5 of them.
5,
all at the same time, I think. And it's
which 5 are you referring to?
Well, so I think I'd be remiss if I didn't start out with AI, machine learning, totally. And artificial intelligence. It seems like that is something that's going to transform for sure the way everybody does anything.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're still in its infancy, but that's going to radically change things. But we've got the digital mortgage. We've got the appraisal modernization effort. We've got MISMO really getting its legs. I mean, it's had its legs, but we've got the catalyst of the appraisal modernization that's really kind of fueling adoption of 3.6.
Yes.
And then we've got an expanded professional pool for providing valuations or collateral assurances with the full blessing of the data collector. What is that going to look like? I think that's going to be an interesting ripple in the industry for sure. So how do you put them all together? Do we go after one of them if we're trying to stay current? I think you have to go after all of them and figure out how to kind of blend them together. I'm using the term braiding the different transformations, just trying to figure out how they all play off of each other and leverage the various transformations as we take those steps forward. But if you think about it, I mean, that's math, and it's art. It's creative. It's facing a blank canvas or an open canvas. It can be anything we want it to be. And so how do we address some of these things in a way that's meaningful and can impact the industry? And that's essentially we're charging after it. And so I get to play in both spaces. I get to play in the technology world, and I get to play in the appraisal space.
I totally hear what an interesting intersection that is. And, one of the cool things about this podcast is that we always have firsts on every single episode. And you were definitely the first person with both a math major and an art minor. Woo! I mean, that is special. I mean,
I'll take it.
High five on that one. Yeah. Woohoo. Put it in there. Put it in there.
Yeah.
And, I was thinking about what you were just sharing, that growing up with a dad who was a developer, I mean, I could be mistaken, but I would dare say that you had better training on property construction than probably 95% of the people in the industry.
Absolutely. Well, it didn't stop there. Of course, every summer we were cheap laborers for my dad. I mean, we were swinging hammers. We're cutting wood. We're carrying stuff up ladders. We're roofing. At times, we're breaking into the house because somebody locked the door.
Sounds familiar.
So, and then, of course, in my more recent years, my wife and I have a penchant. Well, we tend to change whatever house we're in, no matter what. So we've tended, not quite the investor that you are, but we've tended to have an investor's mindset when we buy houses and look for some that need improvement, because we're going to improve it anyway. Maybe not improve it if it's perfect already, but we're going to change it. So why not make a change for the improvement?
I think that's fascinating. And you and I both know what you're referring to, but I dare say that a number of our listeners do not. You want to share a little bit about the additional incentive from our government for the investor mindset to owning your home?
Well, so if you can create sweat equity, we get it tax free. And so, and on top of it, in my case, we're going to change it anyway. Right. So if I know that's going to happen when I land in a house, if we can make sure that we grab something that we can find a place where there's uplift in a way that's smart, and we change it in a way that's smart, then we have an ability to convert that effort into tax-free dollars, and we get the benefit of enjoyment while we're living in it. So. So that's kind of been a tendency for us. And with that being the case, back to the point about construction, I mean, you open a wall, you start seeing things. We had an 1898 house in Portland, Oregon, and we lived on the third floor while we did the bottom two floors. And we essentially ended up having to gut just about the entire place and rewire it. We had a bunch of knob and tube wiring. And so we got modern not appraisal panel, power panel, and replumbed the whole thing and reconfigured a few things to maintain the feel and the historic nature of the house, but to modernize it so that it was comfortable and had all the typical amenities that you would expect in a modern house. It was fantastic, but boy, that horsehair that they used to put in the plaster will get into your lungs and not come out. It was brutal sometimes, but it was fun. There's a stress relief to knocking down a wall that's plaster and lath on the back of it, so lath and plaster construction, and the raw timber of back then, especially in Oregon. They had the biggest, longest, straight grained timber that I've ever seen in my life.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But I think that childhood had a big impact. Just watching a house get built, watching the framers, the foundation, helping string up the foundation before they started pouring or before they started digging, putting the batten boards in, all that stuff. Yep. It is an education for sure.
I couldn't agree with you more so. And for those listening, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm not current on this because I haven't done it recently, but I believe the tax provision that you're making reference to, Chris, is that as long as you have occupied a property for 2 of the last 5 years,
that's correct,
and you're married, you can sell the property and an increase in value over cost exceeding are up to but not exceeding $500,000 is tax-free. So basically, every 2 years, you can take $500,000 tax-free bonus from helping improve the United States housing stock. It's essentially what it's saying.
That's right. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Yeah. And you've got the buffer from an investor's perspective. For us, we have that buffer of sweat equity. So, if there is fear of market fluctuation, which hasn't happened significantly to us, it seems like that you've got a little buffer so that if nothing else, there's a wash, but typically you're not going to only have a wash.
Yeah. Oh, you better not. I mean, if you're going to put the sweat equity in, you better get little beads of gold.
Yes.
Well, coming back in return.
That's the goal.
Yes.
I'd like to have a plan B.
Yes.
Not only a plan A, but a plan B.
Yeah, that is definitely it.
Worst case, best case scenario. Map both of them out and hope you land somewhere towards the best case.
Exactly. And what's so useful about that, and that's something that's such an informative approach, especially in your case where you got to learn it at the hands of your father. Mine, I just learned it at the hands of Home Depot employees.
Yes.
Who I kept showing up to. How do you do this? They're like, weren't you just here a couple hours ago? I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, and I got stuck.
Yeah, there was no YouTube back then, and there was no, like, you'd try and buy like some manual on house construction and stuff. But
we had a bookshelf. We had a bookshelf full of probably 10 or 15 of them.
Mm-hmm.
How to remodel a bathroom.
Yes.
Yeah. Where to start? Where to begin?
Oh my gosh, it was so funny. But to your point, and what's so valuable about that, and I have an acquaintance right now, a good friend actually, I should say, who had worked for us, gosh, what is this, 2025? So right after Prince was singing, We're Gonna Party Like It's 1999, we decided to start a cohort. We didn't call them cohorts back then, but we started a training group for people that wanted to invest in real estate, and we actually trained them in real estate appraisal. So we taught them real estate appraisal as an understanding for how to determine investments.
Yes.
And so it was great because I was back then very actively investing. And so they, like the work that you would have probably done for your dad, doing site visits, like pitching in, doing stuff. I mean, literally learning real estate, investing, rehabbing, construction, development, repositioning, you name it. They learned it all from the ground up. One of the guys is a very successful broker and investor in Northwest Indiana. Another's out in Colorado these days, out in Boulder, very successful. And they do that with houses every 2-3 years. They don't do ground up construction, although I've told him I think that's a much better choice for him out there. He's like, it's too tough. Uh-huh. But to your point, they buy homes and they work within all the requirements is the nice way to put it out there in Boulder, and reposition homes and take them from $1.2 million, not exactly a tear down, to $2.2 to $3 million, basically brand new homes. Yeah. And it all started like your experience was with your brother working for your dad. You just get a handle on it, and it's a nice boost to their retirement plan, is the way they see it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, keep it going.
Yeah.
Well, you got to live somewhere.
That's true. Why not get paid to live somewhere instead of paying to live there?
Sounds like a rich dad, poor dad comment.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we got to bring Robert Kiyosaki on here. We can leave his political comments aside, as it might, inflame half the listeners and trust the other half. But his methodology is quite a useful one, to say the least. No, that's totally the case. And that is good stuff. When you look at the fact that you went into IT, not a path that most people in the profession have any exposure to as an employee. What did you learn moving through places like Cisco? And I think you mentioned you might have worked at, EMC for a little while. Yeah.
Well, so sometimes your condition as a sponge defines what your experience is. And when I entered Cisco, I had just spent about a year and a half living my dream. I was a fly fishing sales rep.
What?
Yeah.
Are you kidding?
No, it was great. I love fly fishing. I always saw the cold water fly fishing as a real exotic experience. Growing up in North Carolina in the flatlands, we're a warm water area. Certainly the North Carolina mountains have trout, but it was just like it was like for me going to Africa as an elephant hunter, going to some high altitude area and figuring out how to pull a trout out of a stream. But yeah, there was this deficit of fly fishing products in my area. And so I lined up a bunch of products and became a fly fishing sales rep for the entire Southeast, over to Arkansas, down through Florida, and up to Virginia.
That's amazing.
It was great. You know, I literally was living my dream. I'd camp out often in a state park or a national park close to some fishing waters. I'd fish in the morning, get a shower at the campsite, and then go into the fly fishing store and show them my samples. And if I smelt a little bit like success, that always helped me have some street cred with those guys.
Oh my!
But I worked really hard and didn't make a ton of money. You know, there was a saying: if you want to make $1 million in the fly fishing industry, start with 2 and work for 3 years.
Yeah.
So, you know, there just wasn't a whole lot of financial upside, but I'd come off of trying to figure out how to organize all of my dealers, how to route, you know, sales trips, and how to effectively build out inventories, helping them with different seasonal patterns. And so all of that kind of put that statistical data back in front of me, just like the appraisal did. And just like when I paid for college, I was doing a similar sort of thing. Each summer I would sell concert merchandise for, outside concerts. There was a big amphitheater tour each summer for big bands. And so I'd be assigned at the end of my last exam, I'd get assigned to a tour and go out and drive a Ryder truck from one spot to another for every concert, and inventory stock into the venue. And then hopefully it'd be pretty close. We'd substitute some stuff in or add a little inventory, pull something out if it's not selling real well. But all of that kind of created that sponge. And once I've got a problem, I'm trying to figure out how to predict behaviors. And so, you know, just some basic stuff like doing some coefficient matrices to figure out what an inventory might look like. But that all kind of fueled, hey, this is real stuff. And if I can figure out how to help other people do things with data, then that's probably a pretty powerful step.
Wow.
And so that when I got in there, I think that I had that sponge created of, hey, these are real world problems, as opposed to this abstract notion of, well, what does a business do with data? Yeah, certainly every business does different things with data, or they have different needs for the information, you know, the translation of that data into something that informs decisioning. And so I think that was the sponge that I had going into it. And so when I got to Cisco, yeah, there was a learning curve of what does bandwidth mean, and, you know, interfaces and open shortest path first, all these different protocols that gave a product competitive edge. That's representing the product, but what does the product do? And the product at the time was setting it up so that different places and different people and different computer systems could talk to each other, which is a radical concept.
Yeah.
That got us to where we are exactly today. You and I are able to have this call, and I'm able to see you because of what Cisco did way back when.
Mm-hmm. It's insightful, and I'd say it might have gone over a lot of people's heads, or probably didn't go over their heads as much as it just kind of blew by, because so many people have shared that they actually listen to this while they're going around. You get a little car time, hitting some travel between different properties they might be visiting, or it's in the background while they're sitting there getting some analysis and report writing done. But you mentioned about some of those core concepts at Cisco. You want to touch on a couple of those? Because I think they're quite pertinent today as much as they've ever been.
Yeah. So there are a few things that stick with me. And I think I'm going to blend both Cisco and EMC.
Sure.
So what Cisco did was essentially they're plumbing for telecommunications. Mm-hmm. So
yes.
The wires and the cables and cable TV, phone systems, all that stuff goes through Cisco. What EMC did was store data in a way that made it easy for anybody to access it. And so if I put both of those together, we've got the plumbing for pushing data around, and then we've got capabilities around designing where that data resides so that we can get it. And so one of the things that sticks with me was that a noble goal is to reduce friction in trying to get access to information.
Got it.
And so if we can figure out how to peel away anything that's a barrier to getting to what we need, then we're achieving something good.
Mm-hmm.
Not only something good, but typically something pretty valuable. So if you can figure out how to break some of those barriers down. So I think that was one thing. The Cisco experience, what I saw was a lot of acquisitions, so business acquisitions, and the culture, the significance of culture within any sort of organization, whether that be an appraisal firm or an AMC, a mortgage lender, pick any community, and there is a culture. And so being able to either recognize that culture and know that it's a real thing instead of an imaginary thing, and then try and figure out how do we improve. Constant improvement, I think, would be a third thing. How do we improve these real things? And I think that culturally, if you're in something and you have a presence there, if you aren't actively there, if you're just sitting around, then you're missing it. I think that everybody contributes to culture, and if somebody's complacent, that is contributing to the culture. And so, whining and moaning about or complaining about something doesn't produce a whole lot. Recognizing that, hey, I can fix something or something can be improved, that's where change happens. And I think that, especially with Cisco, when I was there, it seemed like when I left Cisco, we were in a period of resting and vesting. And that's where new employees were coming in, and they were excited about all the success that the older employees had had. And they thought, hey, if I can land in Cisco, I'm just going to sit there and let my stock options vest, and I'm going to make a lot of money. Well, that's how you kill a company. Not that Cisco was killed, but
that's true.
But certainly there was an obvious and clear change in the culture around year 2000, Y2K, just after Y2K. So I think that all of those adventures, I think, shape at least my worldview, and they motivate me to try and be a participant instead of a lump on a log.
The market right now is tough for appraisal companies. Many companies are having a hard time getting enough work with the same marketing they used to. Is your company struggling, having a hard time getting new customers, or getting additional work from existing customers? The answer to this problem is easier than you think. Do more business with the people you already know. Over 10 years, the average U.S. appraisal firm meets over 17,000 potential customers. That's a lot of people you could be doing business with right now. But it's a big problem if you don't have a proven process to communicate with them. StoryLux turns this problem into an opportunity to grow. Our advanced AI marketing tool can rebuild your contact lists and harvest long-forgotten communications. Imagine reaching out to everyone you've ever met with just one click. For the cost of 1 or 2 appraisals a month, StoryLux helps you reconnect and market to people who already know you, like you, trust you, and want to do business with you. Act now by contacting StoryLux today to turn your business growth dreams into reality. Email appraisal@storylux.com. That is appraisal@storylux.com. And now back to part 2 of the episode.
I think that's I think that makes a world of difference. You even talk about, and I appreciate that, your reference back to the core idea. And, a lot of that comes out of physics, obviously with Cisco's background in, hardware first before they moved into software.
Yeah. Yeah. So the beauty was the combination of, take the physics and the electronics and put it into software to control it instead of exclusively hardware. That's ultimately what kind of broke through for all of these various technologies, is being able to combine. The brilliance of software is that you can change it.
Yes.
Right. And so the hardware is the part that's necessary for the soft stuff to run on. But the software coupled with the hardware really was that synergy that opened up so much opportunity for us everywhere. I mean, it's pretty nutty how those two came together to ultimately get us to where we are today. And so what we're doing today is just improving both the software and the hardware in parallel. And ultimately, you've got NVIDIA and artificial intelligence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think this is interesting. We're going to jump way ahead, and then we're going to come back. In making the bridge to NVIDIA and AI, let's go to NVIDIA first. And I'd say of almost any of our guests over nearly 10 seasons, you're probably one of two, maybe three. There's another one in there. We've chatted, but he hasn't shared a lot of what he knows, so I won't reveal him. But that really have an understanding of why NVIDIA is so valuable, because most people don't know it, but they just hear about it. And they don't get a sense of what the investor enthusiasm is for what they're actually delivering, as opposed to the .com bubble that so many of us lived through, more than 2 decades ago.
Yeah. Well, so NVIDIA, the way that they got into their position today, I think was a little bit, it was an maybe unanticipated path. But what they had started out with was a gaming accelerator and graphics accelerator. And that's taking certain processes and dedicating resources to burn through those processes very efficiently. So they're not having to share those resources. And hey, if I'm doing video editing, I want to be able to have good, clean streaming and alignment and be able to handle large amounts of data at one time. And so having essentially a computer within the computer, that when we're dealing with stuff that requires a heavy load to be processed, I'm going to stick it over into this other smaller computer and have it process and produce the results that I need. And it's not being shared with anything else. And so it's not competing for resources. So let's offload it there. And then my core computing functionality, the UI and being able to intercept the keystrokes that somebody's doing, all of that is going to be handled by the regular operating system. And so that was originally driven by gaming and by computer graphics. And then it was discovered, in fact, this is something in hindsight that I'm actually a little surprised about, is so I was working with one of the data labs at University of Oregon. Mm-hmm. And at the time we were looking at some accelerator kind of sidecar power sucking alien sorts of products that could be implemented in regular computing environments. Yes. And I went in and I'm like, hey, we've got this really cool thing. And the gentleman that I was seeing was, hey, Chris, let me show you what I think is cool. And he took us into a little data center that was filled with Xboxes.
Really?
And they were doing that for their scientific processing. And in fact, they saw that the graphics acceleration that was so concentrated in the Xboxes, to be able to process large data, they weren't playing games. They were using the Xbox's architecture to do really cool things with the big chunks of data that they were working through. And then if you look another place, UW, they had a SETI implementation across the campus to use any of the students' extra bandwidth on their computers, using the SETI software to be able to aggregate that.
Oh man,
really, really cool setup.
That's cool.
Yeah. But anyway, so I think what came out of it was this gaming need to be able to handle and process big chunks and in a timely manner led to, hey, why don't we throw AI over on this and let these big chunks of data and this processing that takes a lot of access to data and learning, machine learning, to be able to generate some of these AI agents that we're working with today. And so that's where NVIDIA really took off, is the intersection of, hey, I've got this kind of computer within a computer, and we've got this need to be able to find something that can handle this large workload. And they just happen to be at the right place at the right time. I know it's not merely coincidental, but I think that's the value of it NVIDIA brings to the market today.
I think that's such an important point, and helps pave the way for the transformation that we're seeing in all industries, and appraisal is one of them.
Yes. Well, that's with some machine learning. We've got artificial intelligence, and ultimately trying to get general intelligence. I think that my son is in college. He's trying to figure out his career path. He wants to be an investment banker. He loves everything about businesses, and he loves products and understanding how people use products. And so we talk a lot. And, the question is, how is AI going to affect the opportunity that he's going to have in 3 years?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to affect it dramatically. It's, 3 years for this AI growth is a long time, I believe.
Oh my gosh.
It's an incredibly long time. We're going to have so much change between now and then I think that the answer is, we don't know what it's going to look like, but just make sure that you've got skills and understanding, and figure out how to use AI instead of not using it. Don't fight it. You're not going to win that battle against AI. And so I've looked around, and I forget exactly who it was, but it was somebody in the upper ranks over at Microsoft. And the point that they made was that just like we have gone through various stages of abstraction, the AI is going to be yet another layer of that abstraction. It's going to change how we as humans interact and contribute to the whole scene, but we are going to continue to contribute. We've got to orchestrate it. We've got to figure out ways to validate. We got to figure out ways to recognize hallucinations that are occurring within the AI space. And I think that my primary encouragement to everybody is to try and figure out how to use it, but don't trust it. The old trust but verify. Yeah. Make sure that if especially for appraisers, because if we are letting AI be the source of the opinion, then we are no longer being the appraiser. We're just a keyboard operator. And I think that ultimately you'll get in trouble because there are hallucinations. The data, if you ask Chat GPT to give you a certain table, you have to go and look at those references. You got to go and make sure that it was translated right. We're still at the very beginning of this, and just like humans make errors, computers do too. But they seem to be more convincing. Computers are. Oh, well, the computer came up with this. It can't be wrong. What are you talking about? It's perfect.
That's true.
But I think I tend to be a prognosticator of beware of automagic. Automagic.
Oh, I like that. Beware of automagic.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah. If it's automagic, then it deserves a good amount of scrutiny.
I love that. And coming back to the other piece you made, other comments you made, and we took part of it into account, and how that all comes full circle here in our lovely walk down memory lane to get to what you're doing these days in and around the appraisal and valuation industries. But the idea that you've got something like NVIDIA, and then you've got this concept of advanced computing that's able to provide some level of high-level data sorting, maybe into the world of analysis, maybe into the realm of primary, or I should say secondary research. And so when you bring all those things together, given what you've experienced since the path you've taken, as is for every one of our guests, is always a little unique from everybody else's, what excites you about the future?
Well, I think some people do not like change. I get bored with routine. Mm-hmm. So I think that we've got an incredible amount of change occurring ahead of us. I think a lot of it's really neat, and I think a lot of it, there's a democratization that's happening specifically in our space within the mortgage appraisal, collateral mm-hmm. valuation space. Everything is aligning right now to have lots of change happen in a way that I don't think is going to be as painful as a lot of people think it's going to be. Mm-hmm. It seems like that there's a lot of impact, that anybody that wants to get involved in that change, there's a lot of impact that we can all have right now and for the next 5 years. I think that there's going to be legacy transformation that happens right now. And it's exciting to me that I'm in the midst of it, and that I'm in a position where I can see a lot of what's going on and put some of those dots together. And I think that being able to see the product of our work, to be able to see efforts that materialize in an industry to shift that culture, to shift the methodologies, to shift expectations, to increase borrower experience, all these different things can happen at the same time without having to sacrifice so much, because there's such a trend that's taking place on all these different dimensions. The momentum is there. And so contributing is a way to really impact that outcome. Mm-hmm. So that's exciting to me. I think, if somebody likes to create, there is the creative process, and that is fun and fulfilling. But also the product at the end, there was a course that I took in college. It was the philosophy of love and sex.
That was a course?
It was a course, yes. And it was a philosophy course.
A philosophy of love and sex.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But from that, I got this little tidbit that I apply everywhere. And it was, it was a philosophy course. And so there was this notion of respect. What is respect? And the definition was of respect was when an action treats something as an ends, not as a means only.
Really?
And what I get from that is kind of an analogy to, it's not the destination, it's the journey.
Yep.
And so if you're only doing something to get to the ends, and not participating in the journey, ultimately it's not a respectful process. And so I think that this is a place where we can totally respect what we're doing by being part of the process and fulfilling a good outcome in whatever endeavor it is that you're working on.
Got it. And so now to bring this full circle, because some people are like, Michael, I haven't heard much at all about, the dogs chasing him from property to property. I'm like, well, that was back in the day.
Yeah.
So here you've had these opportunities to work at some of the biggest technology companies in the world. You've worked at a joint venture as well. You've been around RMA, which is an organization I'm familiar with. Most people here are not. Some of our listeners in the more corporate space would be familiar with RMA. So how does that get you to where you're at today?
Well, I think first of all, there's a sequence of events, and so I can't deny that it got to me today because it happened to me yesterday. Yes. So, certainly that has a lot of impact, but there are a lot of vectors that if you look back to how I got where I am today and how anybody got to where they are today, those vectors are an inclusion of serendipity, intent, effort, and so it ultimately, I'm going to throw another piece out, and this is coaching that I've had for myself more often than anywhere else, and that is, it's a good thing to try and get where you think you ought to be, but you're intended to be where you are. And so that's a forward-looking way, philosophically for me, that's a forward-looking way of kind of summarizing my past, is that, there were lots of places I tried to get to. And some places I got to, some places I didn't, but I got somewhere, Yeah. And so where you are is where you are, and figure out what you can do where you are and make that impact. And I think that as far as chasing dogs and stuff, there were, back in the day when my brother and I were out doing appraisals together, there was one time we were taking comp pictures, and all of a sudden, this is literally a dog story. There was a Rottweiler that was unleashed by its owner as we're at the street. Dang. And taking the picture. And it was back when I was using an SLR camera. So I had a Canon AE1.
It's a nice camera.
And my brother was driving, and I'm lining up the picture, trying to get, everything in frame and in focus. And my brother would give me grief about, I would often think about the apertures. And he says, forget about the apertures, just take the picture. And he was goosing the car to get out of there as this dog was charging after us. But yeah, I think all of it, I think it all leads up to how can I do something? And I've had a trainee license trainee, I'm a registered trainee. I'm not sure exactly what you call that, but and I have been for about 10 years, and it's mainly because I'm doing the software. I've got hours, and but it's a zero-sum game, and I love the industry. I love the creative process, and I think that with the opportunity ahead, I'm busy as all get out, just trying to figure out how to blend these things together, how to produce something that's going to be meaningful, whether it's a direct engagement model, whether it's tied into other platforms. That's the goal. And I think that there's a lot of effort. I'm excited about MISMO. MISMO is something that has been percolating for quite some time, but it's mature, and we have the ability to kind of throw data around in a way that it can have tons of uses. And it's no longer, from my perspective, it's no longer just about the appraisal. It's about how do we use this to know our contractor, to know our customer, know our borrower, all that sort of thing.
No, I totally get that. So could you take a moment then and explain what's the firm that you're currently involved in, and what do you all do, and then what solutions you're providing?
Sure. So back in 2008, for the Home Valuation Code of Conduct, it was clear that that the agreement and the kind of enforcement of standards that used to be on the books already, there's nothing really new at that time being introduced. It was just all being consolidated into a stated code of conduct. It was clear to me that having some sort of tool to help with a direct engagement model would be helpful for lenders that wanted to be able to work directly with appraisers, maintain those appraisal relationships. And so that was our genesis, and it still is our focus today. I think that the business models around vendor management companies, AMCs, internal operations, all that the lines are being blurred. And especially as we move into the appraisal modernization era, we're going to see that that's going to blur even more. But our platform is a direct engagement model, workflow, collateral evaluations operating system. It's a platform that helps a consumer of appraisals be able to find appraisers that are competent in an area and a subject property type and directly engage them. And meanwhile, there's electronic supervision to demonstrate that anybody might want to have a little bit of observation of what transpired. They can look at the history of interactions and see that everything was above board. So essentially, we offer a workflow platform that bridges between mortgage lenders and real estate appraisers to help restore that direct engagement, to help restore not only the direct engagement, but the direct relationship, so that those that are non-loan production staff, of course, in mortgage lenders, they tend to be appraisal desk type staff that are trained on not asking for a value or not getting mad if the value doesn't come in. But, they get to know the appraisers and they get to know their competencies. And so we've trying to build ways to maintain that competency-based selection and trying to, when everything got thrown over the fence to an outsourced provider, back in the day, like I say, everything's getting blurred today, so it's a different playing field today. But back in the day, throwing everything over the fence to another company to manage for a lender, those relationships were lost. And on top of it, generally speaking, there was this emphasis on homogenizing the appraiser. And that just scared the heck out of me, because as an individual, there are things I'm weak. I've got weak skills and I've got strong skills, and I don't want anybody to assume that I'm strong in my weak skills or weak in my strong skills. I mean, that's a formula for failure. And so trying to reveal the competency of professionals, appraisers are true professionals. And being able to recognize their individual strengths and competencies and business interests is the goal of our platform, mainly to be able to lead to that good outcome, improving the process. How do you select somebody? Is it because they're fast? Well, if you can have fast and high quality and fewer revisions and timely responses to questions, well, okay, that's fine. But if you're sacrificing the quality just for speed or for price, then that's a broken system. That's trash in and trash out. So we've tried to emphasize that dehomogenization of the profession in a way that leads to better outcomes for the consumers, which tends to be the mortgage lender.
Wow. That is indeed, that's indeed something else.
And by the way, I will fully disclose that I'm realizing after this conversation that my son is absolutely right, that I'm a true geek. I mean, oh Lord, it's a fun conversation, but yeah, I do have a little bit of a geeky tendency.
I totally appreciate that. I tell people all the time, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you have a podcast," and I'm like, "No, it's a narrowcast." There's just too much grandeur given to the word podcast. I'm like, look, I'm really clear how small the community is in the scope of the whole wide world and all the other professions out there.
Yes. Compared
to the impact, the learning, the sharing, and the growing that we can all do. And to your point, really be part of the future, because as I was listening to I don't remember which one, dude put so much content, Gary Vaynerchuk, one of his talks he gave somewhere, and of course he always posts his content to YouTube, and he talks about the boxing match between one of the matches between people and technology. And he said, every time I check in on the match, it's technology 1, people 0. Technology always wins, whether you like the technology or not, whether you believe in the technology or not. But in general, over the long term, technology wins, whether it's electricity, whether it's running water, whether it's the car, whether it's airplanes, you name it, all of those continue to win, whether it's, what became the foundation of the internet coming out of United States government research work, whether it's, as we know it today, this idea of mobile telephony, whether it's going to be AI or even what comes next.
Yes. Well, that's absolutely true. I think that technology is going to win if you see it as a battle, and certainly that can be the case. But let's not make it a battle. Let's figure out how it's a companion or supplement to what we're trying to do. And if we can figure out how to do that, if we can figure out how to harness it, as opposed to take the Aikido way, and use its energy to our advantage, I think that that leads to a really good position for us. And if you're battling it, I think you're going to lose. I think if you're in a boxing match, it is going to be 1-0. But if you maybe you need to be the coach for that boxer, the technology boxer.
That's a great point. That is actually a great point. So given everything, that you have seen and you have heard and you have experienced, what would you recommend for the portion of your peers, maybe not as technology oriented as you are, but also hold appraisal licenses and certifications and designations? What would you recommend to them? And then I have a second part to the question, but let's take that one first.
Recommend relative to the technology wave that's going on, or just in general?
Well, they're in the profession right now, and as Gary Vaynerchuk says, love technology or hate technology. Technology isn't going away.
Yeah. I think the ticket probably is embrace early. Right now, there's a lot of change that's ahead of us, and anything that you can do as an appraiser to learn about what your appraisal. The life of the appraisal after you complete it is going to be important in the way that you develop your appraisals. And I think that there's a lot of information out there. I know that everybody's super busy, but if we can collectively start participating in the change right now, the change is going to be less dramatic in the near future. So if we put it off, then we're going to have a lot of change happening in a short period of time. And right now, I think that there's been a good effort to try and help people prepare for what's coming up. And, some of it's coming as early as September. Some of it's already here. And so learning about what your appraisal forms companies are doing. I know that there's a lot of kind of previews of what's going on. There's some really cool technologies and approaches. I saw a video of Jeff Bradford with his Nighthawk piece, and that seems really interesting. XML first as opposed to XML after. And I tell you what, if I know that I appear as a geek, and this is probably a geeky statement, but go through and analyze the samples, the materials around the new appraisal form, and try and recognize, think back and kind of self-critique. Well, what have I been doing as a responsibility on the appraiser side of defining the scope? We've been driven so much by the form selected by our client that kind of defined the scope. But in the new era, we're going to be defining the scope and taking ownership of, hey, what is material about this subject property that leads to value? And if you can start taking that ownership and look at the tools that we are being presented, it's back where we're empowered. We're empowered to do the steps, use the methodology that we've been trained to do, to be able to have good, arguable, defendable opinions of value. And if we can do that, then that's a whole lot better than just purely relying on AVMs. So if we were to kind of look at AVM as the boxer in the ring, we're not trying to battle what the AVM does, but instead let's use the tools that AVMs use to empower ourselves to make that unique step and kind of orchestrate those outcomes into our opinion of value instead of an algorithm's opinion of value. I think if we can do that, then you're going to be valuable to your clients. You're going to be satisfied with your work. You'll be proud of your profession. And the final thing I might say is encourage other people to come into the profession. I think I'm a little bit excited about the data collector because that might be a stepping stone into the appraisal profession that actually has a decent amount of pay, and
yeah, I hear you.
I mean, if it's happening, in fact, I think about military vets as a possible sector of coming out of military, getting back into civilian life. And
yes,
if they wanted to go into the appraisal profession, it's difficult. I mean, it's difficult to find a supervisor. It's difficult for a supervisor to pay you when we've got low volumes. But the data collector is certainly a stepping stone into the profession. And I'm excited that that's an opportunity for feeding the industry. But I think just encourage people to come in and be proud of the profession. I think we're gonna be around for a while.
Love that. Absolutely love it. Well, Chris, I really appreciate the time you've taken. It's always great to have an insightful and impactful hour. We've definitely been all around
Michael, thank you.
The proverbial technology world, including appraisal, going back to making new construction home sites, playgrounds for young boys learning their ways in and making the most of it. So definitely appreciate it. Thank you so much.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Very much so. And friends, thank you for joining us for another insightful, informative, and engaging episode here of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose podcast. Thank you for doing what only you can do, which is share the love and continue to learn from others and make sure that you allow your peers to learn as well. You have no idea, what a keto reference that may have come up today from Chris that suddenly might transform your future, or better yet, you're going to have to go look up that class on the philosophy of love and sex. But whatever it may be, it was fantastic. Thank you so much, Chris.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose. We hope you enjoyed learning from the amazing professional paths and achievements of our beloved guests. Before we go, please subscribe on your listening channel, Spotify, LinkedIn, YouTube, and other podcast channels to hear more from appraisers and valuers regarding their life and their work. After you drop a comment below, who is one friend and peer you can generously share this episode with? If you have any suggestions or questions for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Just send us a message on LinkedIn and we'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks again for listening, and until we're together again for the next session of Perusing's Appraisers on Purpose, create the change that you seek.